All right, we're about to break down a comedy franchise that is so beloved, it's pretty much a cultural institution in India. But what if I told you its entire DNA was, well, borrowed? You know it, you love it. Hera Perry. You can probably quote half the movie by heart. But the film you think you know, it has a secret history. It has this hidden family tree that stretches all the way from a 1970s American thriller to a silent Charlie Chaplin film. Because, look, as much as we all revere this franchise, its formula wasn't just some lightning in a bottle moment of pure original genius. So in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers and reveal this really fascinating cinematic DNA. It's a story of adaptation that literally spans decades and continents. So let's kick things off with part one, The Faithful Blueprint. We're talking about the first film, from the year 2000, which follows this very specific and honestly surprisingly faithful method for how it was made. Its direct source material is not a secret at all. The director, Priyadarshan, was super open about it. Hera Perry is an official, declared, frame-to-frame remake of the 1989 Malayalam classic Ramji Rao Speaking, which, by the way, is a huge cult hit in its own right. And when he said it was a direct copy, he wasn't kidding. Just look at this quote from the director himself. All those iconic lines, the rhythm of the jokes, the gags, they weren't rewritten for a Hindi audience. Nope, they were painstakingly translated from the original's already perfect script. Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting. Priyadarshan also said that he never showed the original film to his main actors, Akshay Kumar, Paresh Rawal, or Sunil Shetty. And that creates this fascinating creative puzzle, right? How in the world do you get a frame-for-frame remake if your cast has never even seen the frames they're supposed to be remaking? Well, the answer is in his very unique three-step method. First, the script was a direct translation, so the words were exactly the same. Second, Priyadarshan himself just recreated every single shot and every scene from his own memory of the original. And third, because he kept the actors in the dark, they had to find the humor for themselves, totally organically, within that super rigid structure. So they weren't just imitating performances, they were discovering the comedy from scratch. But guess what? The family tree doesn't stop with Ramji Rao Speaking, not even close. The real origin of this story goes back even further and across an ocean. That central plot point, the whole wrong number ransom call that kicks everything off, that actually didn't start in 1989. Its journey began almost 30 years earlier, with a 1971 American TV thriller called See the Man Run. And this is where you really see the genius of the Malayalam original. The writer Sadiq Lal, they took this tense, dark plot from an American thriller and basically performed cinematic alchemy on it. They turned it into a comedy. They changed the broke couple into this desperate trio of unemployed guys, and they swapped the grim ending for a really heartwarming, feel-good one. That comedic engine is what Hera Perry inherited. Okay, now for part two, the patchwork sequel. 6 years later, fair Hera Perry comes along, and instead of using a faithful blueprint, its whole creative philosophy was the complete and total opposite. Think about it like this. The first film was a direct inheritance from one single source. The sequel, on the other hand, is more like a genetic splice. It's an undeclared patchwork, a collage of different scenes and plot points stitched together from a bunch of different movies. So where did they stitch it from? Well, the movie's entire central plot is lifted from Guy Ritchie's 1998 British crime comedy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. The whole life-threatening debt to a gangster, the subplot with the valuable antique guns, and yep, even that infamous unresolved cliffhanger ending on the bridge, it's all a direct copy of the iconic final scene from Lock, Stock. But just when you think you've kind of figured out its DNA, the movie totally shifts gears for the grand finale. It just ditches the 90s British crime comedy vibe for something, well, something much older. The entire chaotic circus climax is a direct homage, or, let's be real, a lift, depending on how you see it, to Charlie Chaplin's 1928 silent classic, The Circus. The whole setup of accidentally running into a circus and being mistaken for performers, it's the same. The gag of getting trapped in a cage with a dangerous animal, also the same. They just swapped out Chaplin's lion for a gorilla. So, this brings us to the really crucial question. If the first film is a direct remake and the second one is a patchwork of a bunch of other movies, why is this franchise so deeply and genuinely beloved? let's get into the alchemy of a classic. The number one reason is the absolute alchemy of perfect casting. I mean, Paresh Rawal was mostly known for playing villains, but this film turned him into the legendary Babu Rao. For Akshay Kumar, this was the movie that launched his incredible comedy career. The chemistry between these three guys was that irreplaceable X factor that just breathed new life into a translated script. And the second factor? Brilliant localization. See, the original Malayalam film was about the struggle of unemployment in 1980s Kerala. Hera perfectly transplanted that same feeling of economic desperation to a Mumbai setting, which made the characters' struggles feel so authentic and relatable to this huge pan-Indian audience. And that brings us to our final section, from copy to cult classic. Because in the age of the internet, this franchise's legacy reveals a really fascinating paradox. So here's the paradox. The first film, which most people agree is the better movie, is remembered as a classic film. The story and the humor are perfectly woven together. But the sequel, which is often seen as weaker and way more chaotic, has found a totally different, and you could argue a more viral kind of fame online. It's become a classic meme factory. So what's a meme factory? It's basically a movie where individual scenes are so absurd that you can just lift them out of context and they still work perfectly as a viral joke or a reaction gif. The very things that were flaws in pure Hera Pheri, its disconnected plot, its kind of juvenile humor, those are the things that made it the absolute perfect source material for modern meme culture. So the big takeaway here is that the story of Hera Pheri is not a simple case of just copying. It is a 50-year, three-continent journey. It goes from an American thriller to a Malayalam classic to a Hindi blockbuster, and then from a British crime flick and a silent comedy all the way to an Indian meme machine. It's truly a masterclass in the very complex art of adaptation. Which leaves us all with one final, kind of provocative thought. When the end result is this beloved, this iconic, this woven so deeply into the cultural fabric, how much does originality really matter?